All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Little Broad Street Hockey breakdown, brought to you by my name's Chris Meyer. Doing some stuff here for Broad Street Hockey. Oh my God, that game was that game was bad. That game was really bad. Flyers lose 7-3 to the LA Kings. Um, so going into this one, I think the biggest thing for me was just try and win this one. Like, I know that sounds so boring and bland, just like, yeah, like kind of like no shit, you know what I mean? But it's one of those ones where I look at this game and I'm like, last night's game against the Red Wings, it's been the same things that have happened and really killed the Flyers this entire month. That month of November is looking like the peak of this team. I don't think it will be, but that was not good. And then you go into tonight, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, it's the Kings. They're not a great team. They're kind of right there in the mix and, in the bubble and everything to kind of be a contender, a playoff team, whatnot. And, I'm watching this and I'm like, all right, it really wasn't a bad first two periods. I mean, that was quite easily the worst uh, third period of the season. Like, awful, absolutely awful third period. Um, I thought as the game kind of went along, there were some plays from guys that definitely could have been made. I thought the Flyers had some chances that just completely fizzled out, and they haven't been able to score in some rates. When you keep having defensive games like this and you keep having breakdowns, you are not going to win games because the Flyers are not going to be able to outscore teams. It might happen once or twice. It might happen, for a stretch of a couple games and whatnot. But for probably 80% of the season, they will not outscore teams. And when you look at this team, and I think, I look, the big thing going into this one was Cam York. Uh, he gets scratched. I thought he looked awful, if I'm being totally blunt, in the past two games, Detroit and the Minnesota game. Two plays that led directly to goals. Emil Andre comes in. I think this was easily Andre's worst game of his NHL career. Not that I think that Andre's played bad. The best part about games like this is their teaching moments. And I think when you look at where this team is going, everything that went bad in this game is fixable. You look at some of the plays on defense, uh, specifically the fifth goal from the Kings, Kopitar. Andre makes the play on the wall, he misses it. Um, just even going back to the past couple of games. I mean, York, the DeBrincat's goal from the Red Wings that made it 2-1 last game. It's a play, it's a pass straight up, it's a turnover, 2-on-1. He leans down and leaves, one of the best players of all time in Kane to have all the room in the world. I mean, I think everybody and their mother, basically knew that was going in. Um, I it's so hard for me because it's like very simple mistakes that they keep having, and for some reason they keep having these just defensive lapses that just kill them, and they're just not going to be able to outscore teams. You go up 3-2 in the second period, and I'm like, all right, you got to get out of this period. And then Kolosov misplays it. And it's just like, I don't know if it's mental mistakes as well as they don't have enough talent to continue to do this. And it's still happening with them. I don't understand it, if I'm being totally honest. I think there's some plays that definitely could be made. Example, Farabee's 2-on-1 in the first period. Or excuse me, the second period that gets broken up. And I just think most of this month has been like defensive lapses. Then you have some guys not being able to finish. Then you have the plays where the puck just rolls across the line but doesn't go in. They've had bad puck luck. They've had some not great goaltending. They've, kind of mismatched guys in terms of the lineup and things like that too. And you also have had games where you've literally had to try and outscore teams by 4 or 5 goals, and like you're just not going to do it. So, you know, looking at the positives, Bobby Brink. I think Brink has played some really good hockey recently. I think when you look at the line and kind of how it got kind of put together, and him with Cates, and Foerster. I think they've played well. I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is that 𝙏𝙀𝙶 is able to translate plays off the wall, and I think that helps with Foerster and Brink, and I think that's why that line has gelled so well. I think they're able to win a ton of battles. I think Brink, for being a small guy, wins a ton of puck battles and puck plays in front of the net, side of the net, in the corners, things like that. Um, Brink is really good in terms of lateral skating, the way he kind of moves. He's very shifty, and again, he's just able to just win pucks and things like that too. And they've really done a good job in terms of the forecheck, and I think that's, obviously that's why they got the goal there in the first period for 𝙏𝙀𝙶, and he's had a really good stretch of hockey. I mean, I'm not a huge 𝙏𝙀𝙶 guy. I think my thing with 𝙏𝙀𝙶 is that I've always kind of wished he could produce a little more offensively. I know that might be a little bit of a stretch considering where he plays in the lineup, his line mates, things like that. But in terms of Noah 𝙏𝙀𝙶, he's one of those guys that I feel like he's just kind of there. And I think that's part of the problem with the Flyers offense and the Flyers roster makeup, is there's just some guys that are just kind of there. 𝙏𝙀𝙶 is one of them. I think you could argue Frost is one of them, unfortunately. And I've always been a really big Frost guy. 𝙒𝙎𝙎𝙏𝘍𝙎𝙏, I think, is another one. So, you have some guys that are kind of just there and they just kind of exist. And I hate to put it that harshly, but it's kind of tough. But 𝙏𝙀𝙶 is a guy who's very good defensively. He's had some really good moments this year defensively, good stick usually for most of the time. I think he's a really good fourth line center, but I think anything higher, it's like, it's kind of unfortunate. But then you have Lawton, then you have Poehling, you have Hathaway, and that line's been looking really good. So, like, it's hard to judge where some of these guys could be, and that's the problem with this Flyers team is, and you see it in games like tonight. I mean, it's 3-3. You go into the third. I thought the Kings had pretty good starts to the period. I thought well, I should say at least the second and third. I thought the Flyers actually had a good start in this one in the first period, and you know I feel like as the game was going on, I'm thinking to myself, all right, you get the third, just win the period, win the game. And when you get there, I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, it's 3-3. Kolosov hasn't been great. He just had the goal before that just completely was really completely on him. The second goal you can argue too, because it's in his pads and all that. He probably should have that. But the third one, oh my God. I mean, it's just it's plays like that just killed them. Because again, they're not a team that's going to outscore anyone. And when you essentially give teams free goals, you're not going to win. And, when you look at that, I'm thinking, again, it's 3-3 going in the third. They get the goal early. It's a point shot. It's deflected. Poehling gets a stick on it. It unfortunately goes into his own net. Whatever, right? It's early. You got time. It's like a minute 30 into the period. Then Andre makes the play. It's 5-3. There was a play earlier on the Byfield breakaway where Andre moves and Mulla didn't read it either, and Byfield just creeped in on the breakaway. They both went to the same side, broke the Fred Shero rule, which is essentially when both defensemen go to the same side of the ice, you're fucked. And both of them go to the same side. Byfield gets a breakaway. Kolosov made a good save. I'm like, all right, still 4-3. Then it's 5-3. Again, it's a breakdown. Ristolainen didn't play it great either. He tried to slide down the block to pass, and Kopitar, the ageless wonder, I think Charlie O'Connor tweeted it earlier. It's so true. He's like the Slovenian Datsuk. He's just not as creative offensively, but Kopitar is one of my favorite players ever to watch. And then it's 6-3 with the empty netter, and like even the empty net goal, like Farabee can't hold the puck, on the wall. You get the play from Drysdale. He loses it. I think Drysdale has had some up and down moments. Like, I genuinely have enjoyed watching Drysdale every night, because there's some moments where I'm like, oh my God, that was horrible. And then there's some moments where I'm like, oh my God, that was really good. And I think when I watch Drysdale, the biggest thing that I am noticing is he's again, it's one of those things where, like, he's a great skater. He moves the puck well. I think he's a good defender one-on-one. I think he's a good defender in terms of, plays on the wall and things like that. I think just in terms of man-to-man coverage and stuff like that, like, it's been tough to really see the growth in that. And that's one of those things where he's been hurt. I think tonight he had some really good moments. One-on-one, he had to play on the power play. Byfield tried to go one-on-one around him, and he ended up breaking it up. Flyers went right back up the ice. That was the other thing. The third period, again, it's the 4 goals against, right? Then you have a power play. It's got to be the worst power play of the season, like easily. Um, that power play ends up going. I mean, they didn't get a shot. They had shots were 15-1, or excuse me, it was 15 shots in the second period for the Flyers. They had one shot in the third with 8 minutes left. So they won 15 minutes in the whole 20 minutes of the second period with 15 shots. And then in the third, they go 12 minutes and they get one. They had a couple chances. Farabee had the one late where he ended up missing it, but it's just like, again, you cannot have games where you give up goals in key moments and then you blow really like high quality scoring chances and you just don't finish. Like it's not a recipe to win. And I think when you watch the team and you watch the Flyers and you see that, I mean, the roster, it makes up for it. Again, I'm not a big guy on the Flyers, like making a ton of moves right now. I'm not like, with the all the signs and pitchforks, like begging Danny to do something. Like, obviously it would be nice to make a move. Do I think they're going to? I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything. I don't think it's one of those things right now where it's like they have to do something or what, but like, I don't know, man. I mean, it's 3 games in a row now where you have, Minnesota, Detroit, and LA, where you have I think I don't know, did they score for? Yeah, they scored first in what, 2 of these games? No, just 1. 2 of the 3 games you get scored on first, you're playing from behind. You have bad, just brutal turnovers that lead to goals, misplays and stuff, and then, obviously Kolosov, like, I don't know. It's so frustrating because I think the biggest thing I've noticed is that you go a couple games, Flyers get maybe 2 wins in a row, 3 wins in a row. You're like, all right, maybe they're, cooking with gas a little bit. And then you have games like tonight where it's like, oh my God. And it just goes straight back down. I think, and that's why they're staying over this 500 bubble, and they can't really get over it. Now they're under it. When you look at this one, you look at the standings. I know it's so early for this, but they're now 14, 15, and 4. In terms of the wild card, they're only 2 points out of a wild card spot. Like, it's so, you know what I mean? Like, it's so early to kind of look at like playoffs, but I bring it up because it's like, how many games could you look at this record and you look at the schedule and you're like, yeah, they could have won that one. Yeah, they could have won that one. Like, off the top of my head, you have the 6-4 loss in Carolina, the 5-4 shootout loss to Vegas. You had that game in Florida that they lost 4-3 in a shootout. And those are just 3 off the top of my head. Boston, I think that was this month, early December 7th. Like, some of these games are just like, dude, you got to close some of these out. And I think that's the biggest thing is have been a ton of games this year where they've had chances to close it out. They've had plays that could have been made and goals that probably could have been scored. And for some reason, Joel Farabee is the one that constantly comes to my mind whenever I say that because he's had so many chances and he can't finish them. But it shows the difference between a good team and a bad team. And right now the Flyers are not, one, that they're not going to be a good team, and B, they're getting there. You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to get to that spot, and unfortunately they don't have the roster makeup to do some of these things. And when you have games like tonight where you constantly have the same mistakes and same efforts and all that. And again, I don't think the Flyers have a effort problem. I don't think they have I don't think the guys I don't think it's one of those things where like the players don't care. Like, that's not, I don't believe in that. And B, like, I don't think that's something with this team. I think that's very obvious. I just think they just aren't good enough. And unfortunately, when you look at it and you look at the team, you look at the roster, their power play has really screwed them in a lot of games, just big moments, really, in general. So yeah, I mean, one other thing I wanted to touch on too was 𝙏𝙒𝙖𝙏𝙏𝙀𝙍. I think he's had a couple. Well, a couple. I should say, well, a couple. What, 2 or 3? So I'd say probably these last 2 games he's been rough, and it's not something I'm worried about because I think Meech has been great to watch and he's been exciting. I do wonder about Saturday night where it's like, is Saturday night against Columbus, is that going to be one of those games where it's just everybody gets to take a breath? You know what I mean? You just beat the really just beat the balls off Columbus. What was that, 2 weeks ago? So I'm looking at it like you clean up a couple things. Again, all of these things that happened tonight, the Kolosov goal, the breakdown from Andre, the little plays at the blue line from Zamula and Andre, Farabee not being able to finish a couple plays, all of that stuff, well, outside of the Farabee thing, all that stuff, it's all fixable. It's all like video and details and all that stuff. I think the way that, again, you look at how Shaw was able to change Ristolainen, I think you're going to be able to see that with Drysdale in terms of the next like couple of years. And again, it's little things like that where it's like defensive mistakes. Like you're going to be able to do it. And I think it's, again, when you play above the puck, it's one of them things that really helps you out. So I don't know. Tonight was incredibly frustrating because again, you had a 3-2 lead. Foerster, I thought, had a great game. Obviously, the 2 goals were key, but just the way that he was able to kind of play and put that all together. But again, it's so frustrating when you have games like this that unfortunately the bad things continue to transfer over and the good things kind of halt because they just aren't there yet. And that's the frustrating part when watching them, because you think you're going to get some of it and then you just don't. And that's been the kind of, trying to think of how to explain it. It's essentially the Flyers basically just playing like, trying to think of how to explain it. But anyway, regardless, they've just really struggled in terms of just 5-on-5 play and things like that too, and show. So unfortunately, they lose this one 7-3. Thanks everybody again. Check out Broad Street Hockey and all the things that we do. Got our YouTube and Twitter here on the bottom. Make sure to check us out, all the great stuff that everybody does. It's been a lot of fun working with these guys. So thanks everybody again for all support, and talk to you guys all again next time. See you guys.